A lone rancher stumbles upon two hanged Apache girls and uncovers a deadly truth that changes everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's get started. Cole Maddox rode across the late afternoon desert with the steady patience of a man who had long ago stopped expecting anything good from the world. The land stretched endlessly before him, a silent sea of dust, creosote bushes, and scattered rocks that glowed amber under the sinking sun. Cole never feared the emptiness of the West. It suited him. It matched the quiet inside his chest, the kind of quiet left behind when grief outlasts anger. But as he moved along the ridge, he noticed something that pulled him sharply from his solitude, a swarm of vultures circling low over the canyon ahead. Their silhouettes spun slowly in the dying light, dark wings beating against the fading sky like omens. Cole narrowed his eyes. Buzzards didn't gather without reason, and the way they dipped and rose in restless spirals set off an instinct that had kept him alive through too many battles to ignore. He tightened his grip on Bristle's reins and nudged the horse forward, descending the slope with deliberate caution. The desert wind carried no sound of violence, but he felt it in his bones. Something wrong was waiting below. At the canyon floor stood an ancient mesquite tree twisted by decades of harsh winds. Its branches curled like gnarled fingers, stark against the barren landscape. It took Cole only one look to understand why the vultures hovered. Two small bodies hung from the lower limbs, swaying gently as the breeze combed through their long black hair. The girls were Apache, no older than 13 or 14, their bare feet dangling motionless above the dusty ground. Cole's breath caught. Even in a land as cruel as the frontier, killing children was a sin beyond measure. He dismounted and approached slowly, scanning the ground for any sign of movement. His gut tightened with each step, expecting the stillness of death. But as he reached the first girl, a faint twitch stirred her fingers. A rasping, broken gasp escaped her throat. Cole's instincts snapped alive. Without hesitation, he drew his knife, slicing through the rope and catching her fragile body before it hit the ground. He laid her gently in the dirt, then rushed to cut down the second girl, whose shallow breathing trembled like a candle flame on the verge of dying. He knelt between them, his hands steady though his heart pounded with fury and disbelief. Both girls bore bruises, cuts, and dust-soaked streaks of tears, marks of being chased, beaten, and dragged. Their throats were raw from the noose, their pulses weak but still present. Cole poured drops of water between their lips, watching as faint flickers of consciousness stirred in their eyes. He had patched up dying men in war camps, saved ranch hands after stampedes, but nothing had ever twisted his stomach like seeing these two children fighting for life. Cole stood and scanned the surrounding earth. Tracks told the story, wagon wheels, multiple horses, and one pair of boot prints with a distinctive heel mark, sharp-edged, heavy, pressed with authority. Recognition crawled across his mind like ice. He knew those prints, knew the brand burned into the leather of those boots. Bartholomew Devereaux. The name itself tasted bitter. A wealthy rancher with a private army of hired guns, Devereaux had spent years pushing the Apache off their ancestral lands, buying influence, silencing witnesses, and crushing anyone who opposed him. If he had ordered these girls killed, it meant something darker than vengeance. Cole returned to the girls, his jaw set in grim resolve. He couldn't leave them here. Riding to town for help would take too long, and whoever did this might return. He lifted each girl carefully, feeling how light and weak they were, and laid them across his horse. He mounted behind them, keeping an arm steady around their fragile forms, and turned toward his ranch. The desert darkened quickly, shadows swallowing the trail. Cole rode hard, his senses sharp, feeling watched even though the land behind him lay silent. Danger clung to the air like smoke. He reached his small cabin just as night settled in full. Inside, he lit a single lantern and placed the girls on his bed. With practiced hands, he cleaned their wounds, wrapped bandages around their cuts, and eased water into their dry mouths. After a long moment, the older girl's eyes fluttered open, dark, wide, and filled with fear. She stared at Cole, trembling. He spoke softly, telling her she was safe, that no one would hurt her now. But instead of calming, she stiffened and whispered weak, breathless words in Apache, words Cole couldn't understand but whose meaning he felt. Warning, urgency, danger approaching. Cole moved to the window, extinguished the lantern, and peered into the night. At first he saw nothing but desert darkness. Then movement. 3 riders emerged from the distance, silhouettes outlined by the moon. They rode without hesitation, without concern for stealth. Hunters closing in. Cole grabbed his rifle and positioned himself beside the window. The riders dismounted near the barn, their boots crunching softly. He heard their voices, calm, arrogant, certain of victory. One laughed, saying they tracked the girls to Cole's land. Another said their boss wanted the job finished tonight. Cole's blood boiled. These men weren't here to take the girls back alive. They were here to silence them forever. He steadied his breath, waited until one man stepped on the porch and fired a single shot. The man collapsed instantly. Chaos erupted as the other 2 dove behind cover, shouting curses lost beneath gunfire. Bullets chewed through the wooden cabin walls, sending splinters flying. Cole moved between windows, firing calculated shots to keep them pinned. Through the smoke and darkness, one voice rose above the gunfire, deep, cold, unmistakable. Bartholomew Devereaux had come himself. Devereaux walked forward with slow, measured steps, as though the bullets ripping through the night were nothing more than bothersome flies. Moonlight caught the polished handle of the revolver at his hip and the smug curve of his mouth. Cole felt his muscles lock as the man's silhouette grew clearer. Devereaux had always been dangerous, but seeing him here, personally hunting down 2 nearly dead children, revealed a level of brutality Cole had never imagined. The girls trembled behind him, their breaths ragged, their eyes reflecting the fear Cole himself refused to show. Devereaux stopped a few yards from the cabin, his boots sinking into the dust with quiet confidence. "Cole," he called, voice steady, almost friendly, "you've got something that belongs to me." Cole didn't answer. His rifle pressed tight against his shoulder, tracking the slightest movement outside. Devereaux chuckled lightly, as though amused by the silence. "Don't make this harder. Give me the Apache girls, and I'll let you keep the rest of your miserable life intact." The casual cruelty in his tone boiled Cole's blood. He stepped deeper into the shadows, ready. When Cole finally spoke, his voice held no tremor. "They ain't yours, they're kids." Devereaux exhaled, annoyed. "They're witnesses, Cole, witnesses to a necessary adjustment." Cole's jaw clenched as realization settled like poison in his chest. "What adjustment?" Devereaux paused, savoring the moment. "My men cleared their village this morning. They refused to move from land that belongs to me, and I don't tolerate disobedience." The words struck Cole like a hammer. A whole village wiped out. Mothers, elders, children. And these 2 girls had survived long enough to be hunted like animals. Cole felt something inside him ignite, a fierce, burning clarity. "You slaughtered innocent people for land," he growled. Devereaux shrugged, almost bored. "Survival of the fittest, Maddox. The weak fall, the strong take. The West has always belonged to men with spine." Cole raised his rifle, stepping into a sliver of moonlight. "Funny," he said coldly, "because the way I see it, real men protect the weak." Devereaux didn't flinch. He simply smiled and lifted his hand, signaling to the last rider hiding in the shadows. Flames suddenly exploded near the barn as a lantern shattered on the hay. The fire roared upward in seconds, lighting the ranch in violent orange. Sparks blew toward the cabin, heat pressing against the walls. The girls coughed as smoke seeped through the cracks. Cole had no choice. Staying meant burning alive or being gunned down. He grabbed the girls, lifted them into his arms, and ran out the back door just as flames began licking the cabin's edges. Gunshots chased them into the darkness, bullets snapping past Cole's ears. He slid behind a boulder in a dry wash, placing the girls safely in a hollow, and raised his rifle once more. Final rider approached, pistol drawn, scanning the shadows. Cole waited until the man stepped into the open, then fired. The rider dropped, echoing a dull thud in the night. Only Devereaux remained. Cole's shoulder burned from the strain, ash strung his eyes, and smoke churned from the burning barn behind him, but he held steady. Devereaux walked slowly toward the wash, revolver ready, coat swaying like dark wings. There was no fear in the man's face, only annoyance, as though Cole's resistance was an inconvenience. "You can't win, Maddox," he said. "You're one man against progress." Cole rose from behind the boulder, rifle leveled. "Progress?" he spat. "You mean murder?" Devereaux's eyes glinted with cold amusement. "You can't save them. Even if you kill me, others will finish the job." Cole didn't blink. "Then I start by stopping you." Devereaux lifted his revolver. Cole fired at the same instant. 2 shots cracked through the night, echoing across the desert like thunder. The impact staggered Cole backward, a searing pain ripping across his upper arm. But Devereaux stumbled harder, grabbing his chest, as blood spread across his vest like a dark flower blooming in moonlight. Devereaux collapsed to his knees, gasping disbelief twisting across his face. "This doesn't change anything," he rasped. Cole approached slowly, rifle trained. "It changes everything." Devereaux's eyes flicked toward the girls hiding behind the boulder, then back to Cole. For the first time, a flicker of fear broke through his arrogance, and then his breath stopped. His body slumped forward into the dust, lifeless. Silence swept over the desert, broken only by the crackling of the burning barn. Cole staggered, but remained upright, forcing his body to move back toward the girls. The older girl crawled toward him, tears shining in her eyes, tiny hands reaching to touch his wounded arm. Cole knelt, wincing, and offered a weak smile. "You're safe now," he whispered. She pressed her forehead to his shoulder, whispering words he didn't understand but felt deep in his soul. With dawn approaching, Cole lifted both girls onto Bristle's back and began the long ride to a distant Apache camp he knew still survived. When he arrived, the people gathered in silent grief as Cole told them what happened. The chief listened, stone-faced, then placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. "These girls carry the spirit of their people," the chief said softly, "because one man chose honor over fear." The girls were welcomed into the surviving band, wrapped in blankets, surrounded by their own once more. As Cole prepared to leave, the younger girl ran to him, offering a small woven bracelet. He accepted it, touched beyond words. Then he rode away from the camp, the morning sun rising behind him. His ranch was gone, burned to ash, but something within him felt restored, a spark long buried beneath years of loss. Purpose had returned to his life like a long-lost rider. Cole Maddox rode onward, wounded but unbroken, knowing he had stood against a monster and saved 2 innocent souls. And though the West remained a harsh and unforgiving place, Cole understood something he had forgotten, that even in a land ruled by violence and greed, a single act of courage could shift the balance. The frontier would remember this night. The Apache would remember the man who defied a tyrant. And as Cole disappeared into the horizon, one truth lingered in the desert wind, a truth born not from legend, but from the heart of a man who refused to let evil win.